RJ Barrett's name keeps popping up in Domantas Sabonis trade rumors. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, Brad Season says the Celtics are open to being buyers at the trade deadline, and Klay Thompson wants to play for a contender before his career ends. We're going to talk about all that and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, NBA fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today. Michael Scotto, which one is it, of Hoops Hype, did report that the Toronto Raptors have continued to explore the trade market for a high-level front court talent, including Domantas Sabonis, saying this: the Raptors have always monitored the trade market for big fish, whether it's Giannis Antetokounmpo or Anthony Davis in this case. It's also worth noting that dating back to the summer, the Raptors expressed exploratory interest in Kings center Domantas Sabonis, league sources told Hoops Hype. Now, this makes some sense, right? Now, the Toronto Raptors are right now third in the Eastern Conference. And as we know in the Eastern Conference, with the right move, almost any team could be in contention in the Eastern Conference, especially, while the East is even more wide open. The Celtics have been better than expected without Jason Tatum, and we'll get more on them here in a second. But it seems like the Toronto Raptors are in a position where if they can get the right big fish, they want it to try to secure their ability to try to win the East, right? Now, the Detroit Pistons have been great this season. The New York Knicks are second. Those two teams have been first and second for a while now, right? And things are starting to normalize with that. The New York Knicks do have the bigger point differential. And the thing that I always say, too, is that look at point differential, especially in the East. That's how things usually shake out in the East eventually, right? But the Raptors with making the right move. Now, the question about this, they're looking for front court depth, but they do want to keep Jakob Poeltl. Now, Sabonis is a player that has played with other big front court players before, like a Miles Turner when he was in Indy. So maybe they feel like there's some of that symmetry that can work between there. I don't quite know if I feel the same way, but we heard earlier in the week that they did want to keep Jakob Poeltl. So if we're adding into that, they want to be able to keep Poeltl there, right? So using RJ Barrett as the chip to get that front court depth, it does raise some questions on, all right, how are they looking at the rest of their roster and viewing it? As it stands right now, Brandon Ingram has a negative point differential in just about everywhere, right? Like he has a negative net defensively. Teams are better, almost 11 points better when he's on the floor defensively. Opponent teams, I should say. And then the Raptors themselves are worse, negative 5 points offensively per 100 possessions when he's on the court as well. So that would kind of be the piece that would make the most sense to move. If you're talking about looking at the analytics and what they're telling you in regards to your roster and where the scoring is coming from. But this is a Raptors team that, Brandon Ingram, for what it's worth, is their number one player as far as scorer, right? You have Scotty Barnes, who's right behind him, and then you have RJ Barrett. Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett are both averaging 19 points per game. They're right there neck and neck. So if you added a Domantas Sabonis or Anthony Davis to this team, do they have a chance to win out in the East? And I'll say it depends on how they fit together. That's the thing, right? And of course, Anthony Davis is an injury concern, and the contract size, those are all major concerns when it comes to that. So let's just take for this, let's focus on Domantas Sabonis, which Michael Scotto is focusing on in his article, right? And adding Sabonis with his $40 million contract, which is still $20 million almost less than Anthony Davis, is still not as easy as just to seamlessly fit in, right? Now, if they're clearly targeting, as reported in there, they want front court depth. So they're focused on the front court. And when you look at the Eastern Conference, that makes some sense via the front court, even in working some advantages. It makes a lot of sense there. RJ Barrett's contract is, not necessarily ridiculous, but it is a contract that you do look at and you say, yeah, $27 million, they're $29 million next year. If you can get a player that's at the position you've identified that you need, do that, right? So then you move on from that. You probably move everybody down one, Scotty Barnes too as well, all those type of things, and you overcome that. And maybe that's what the Raptors feel like is going to be enough in the Eastern Conference. The thing that I always worry about is this, right? Is that if you convince yourself that your window's open more than it is, and then you make a big move based off that evaluation, you could be left stuck holding your dick, to just be 100% honest with you, right? I know that's not the way everybody's going to explain it, but that's the way that I talk about it, right? Sabonis would definitely matter in Toronto. Like, you look at that being an international city, we talked to that before, and all those type of things matter. It's also worth noting as well that the Kings general manager, Scott Perry, was the one who drafted RJ Barrett when they were with the Knicks. So maybe there's some sign there. And we do know that the Kings were looking for wing depth with the Jonathan Kuminga thing, all that type of stuff. So 29-year-old Domantas Sabonis, who has been a former All-Star as well, he's averaging 17 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 1.2 steals per game as well. He's shooting 51% from the field. So, he's also playing 33 minutes per game. So if they feel like that's going to help them get there, then great, right? But that's something that they'll have to look at, and we'll see what happens there. RJ Barrett, Domantas Sabonis contracts, you'll see how that ends up working out. Domantas Sabonis, for what it's worth, he's in the second season of a 4-year, $186 million deal, making $42.3 million. So that is quite a large, financial burden there. It's almost double of what, or $20 million more than what RJ Barrett's making. So you have to look at that part as well. But RJ Barrett has been hurt, and with his absence, they've been competitive. So if you look at them, improving from 12-5 to 16-11 while RJ Barrett's being out, probably looking at that and saying, hey, this has opened up an opportunity for us to add some front court depth, and we'll see what happens there. To keep in mind, not only has Scotto been the one to say this, Jake Fisher reported it as well earlier on when Jake Fisher said, sources with the knowledge of the Raptors thinking have identified them as a team with interest in Sabonis as well as Anthony Davis. So what it seems is that the Toronto Raptors are going to be going hard to add talent here to try to solidify their ability to come out the East. Are they going to be successful in it? We'll see. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. Is Domantas Sabonis the right player for the Toronto Raptors to target, or should they go after their even bigger contract than Anthony Davis? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. But the Raptors will not be the only team that will be looking to add at the trade deadline. Brad Stevens has come out and said this: we will not be putting a ceiling on this group. If it makes sense for us to look at things that can help us, we certainly will. But it all has to be within good deals, and it all has to be within the ultimate goal, which is the North Star of retooling, so we're in a position to compete for what we want to compete for, a championship. And that's great. Like, I commend the Celtics for seeing this. Like, with Jason Tatum being down with the Achilles at the start of the season, it would have been easy for the Celtics, who do control their own pick, to just pack it in, stack up, and then, get a draft pick. But now with the Celtics being number 4 in the Eastern Conference, they were number 3 in the Eastern Conference just not too long ago. The Celtics have shown, with Jaylen Brown being back healthy for the first time in a while and looking pretty damn good, that this is a team that can compete in the East. They already are expecting Jason Tatum to try to make a return on this season. And so because of that, they should be pushing their chips in. They got the trade chip of Anthony Simons that they can cash in to try to get front court depth, and that's what the Celtics will be reported on, is adding front court depth. Now, could they be a team that's interested in Sabonis? Maybe. Could they be a team that's interested in players like Daniel Gafford or even in Nick Claxton if he's truly available at the trade deadline? Yes. If Jason Tatum is coming back, all those moves make tons of sense for where they are right now as a team. And so Brad Stevens being that the person running that franchise and saying, listen, we aren't against doing whatever it takes by any means necessary. If it means that we can get to being a championship contending team, we're going to make that move. And that's what we kind of all expected coming into the season, was that if the Celtics were able to be better than expected with all the injuries, they are going to look to cash in Anthony Simons. They are going to look to cash in some of their other deals to try to get some depth in here. Anthony Simons is a $27.6 million contract. You also have Sam Hauser at 28 years old. He's another $10 million. That gives you $37 million that you can mess with, as well as including other things if you decide to do so. So I think those are going to be the two biggest chips that the Celtics are looking to use leading into the trade deadline to see if they can get some front court depth in there. And whereas at one point it looked like maybe that team may try to stay get under the first tax apron, they're only $4 million above the first tax apron. This could be a team that instead makes a move and a decision to stay in the luxury tax, and they feel like they're going to have a chance to compete. But that all comes down to if Jason Tatum can come back. This is a Celtics team that has overachieved via some people. I did think that, like when people ask the Pacers or the Celtics, which team's going to have the better season, I always said the Boston Celtics, mainly because they have most of their core is still intact there. Yeah, they lost some really key pieces, but most of that core was still intact there. Now they're going to have an opportunity to go in and find some pieces that make sense with that. And with Jason Tatum coming back as well, this Boston Celtics team can go right back in there to contending in the Eastern Conference. And I'm sure the Jason Tatum thing that's overhanging with this team is going to be a big part in what decision and which way to decide to go as well. So we just have to see how that all works out for this team. But the Celtics, as things go right now, they are ready to go all in. And we'll see. Brad Stevens also saying this: I think everybody or a lot of teams are still really very much in. Let's see how everything looks as time goes. Everybody's a work in progress. What's the difference between third and ninth in the East? There's hardly anything, right? And he's right. When you look at the Eastern Conference and how things are with the standings right now, everything is really tight in the East. When we talked about coming into the season, the wide open East, that's what we're talking about. From number 3 to number 9 is only 4 games that separate those, 4.5 games that separate those teams. I'm sorry, I actually have that wrong. From number 9 to number 3, it's actually 1.5 games that separate those, right? So, do math better, Haize. So that shows you just how tight everything can be. And as you get closer and closer to this trade deadline, especially after coming into January, that's where you're going to want to see teams that really can make and truly feel like they can separate themselves and create that separation and really make themselves contenders in the Eastern Conference. And the Celtics are a team that's right there. You get Jason Tatum, you get front court depth for Anthony Simons and Sam Hauser. The Celtics team is going to be right back in there as a team that's going to be competing in the playoffs to try to win a title. But let me know what you guys feel on that down below. Next topic. Klay Thompson has said that he wants to play for a contender. He says this. It's kind of a ridiculous question because I don't own a time machine and I don't believe in going back or looking back. If I did that my whole career, I would not be where I'm at. And I wouldn't have to be able to persevere through 2 really hard injuries. So I'm here in Dallas and I enjoy my time and I'm looking forward to the future. So the thing is, though, is that reportedly he wants to play for a contender. You look at the way his season started where he did look washed. And while he still doesn't look like the Klay Thompson of old, he is a player that is still there and still can help a team play, right? So, when you look at teams around the league that could make a play for Klay Thompson and it makes some sense to add some depth, some shooting as well, there's a number of teams that need shooting. Is always a thing that's going to be at a premium, right? Especially in the modern NBA, they're always going to be one of the teams that want to add shooting. The question becomes about how much do the Dallas Mavericks really want to blow everything up? And we still don't really know that. We've, of course, heard rumblings that they could want to move Anthony Davis. If they do that, Daniel Gafford, other players, could be moved. PJ Washington can't be moved this season. Klay Thompson's on a $16 million deal. And while that's not easy, it's not like an $8 million player that's playing on a mid-level exception. That's not hard money in the modern NBA to come up with and match if you want to. The question becomes then about how much do the Mavericks want back for Klay, if it's really anything, substantial. Are they willing just to take any type of picks back to add to their collection? But Klay Thompson is really, he's averaging 11.1 points per game, so not huge. But this is a player that has started playing better. And, he can help a championship team. Can he lead a team? No, not anymore. Is he defensively what he was? No, not anymore. As he said in that quote, he's come back from 2 major injuries. But he's still shooting 36% from 3. He's only shooting 37% from the field, but the majority of his shots are threes. He's only taking 10.5 shots per game. Almost 8 of those are three-pointers. So this is a player that's living exclusively at the three-point line. The question becomes about where does he fit? And do you have a point guard that can create for him or a system where you can come off those screens? You have a presence down low that can open that up a little bit more for him and those type of things. I think Klay can still help a team. How much? I think that matters on which team he goes to. It matters just as much as any of that, right? So we'll see what happens with Klay Thompson. But to get to the last topic of the day, I think that we're seeing overall is that while there are some teams that are big fish hunting, absolutely, but there are a lot of teams as well that seem like they're going to be looking for depth and fit over necessarily making a move for a superstar, right? And this was echoed by Brian Windhorst, who said this. The trend in the league right now is depth and flexibility are valued more than sort of star talent. Now, superstar talent, that's always a demand. If you're going to put Luka on the market, that's a trade that's going to get done. If Giannis comes to the market, it's still an if, whether it's this season or next summer, if a trade will get done. There's this collection of players out there who are big on salary, and a lot of them have some red mark on their CV, whether it's an injury history or maybe an age, or they want a new contract. These are the guys who would have no problem trading 2 or 3 years ago. But because of the realities of the aprons and the way that teams are prioritizing depth and team building in the apron area, it's going to be harder to trade them. So if you're looking for superstar trades, it seems like those may be seldom to come by at this trade deadline. But you could see teams make strategic trades that add depth to their team, that add fit to their team, that add something that they're missing rather than going big star hunting. The Toronto Raptors are one of them. Maybe the Atlanta Hawks become another one. Maybe other teams come in on that. But it seems like prioritization of fit is the thing that teams are looking at more. Think about the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're looking for a point guard, not necessarily a star point guard, right? We heard teams are out on Ja Morant, those type of things. So I think that we're seeing a philosophy change. Expiring contracts are not valued as much in the NBA at the trade deadline as they were before because teams are looking at that and saying, hey, especially if it's a player that may not re-sign for that much, we can get them in the offseason without giving up any assets. Teams are just being smarter. And that's what the creation of the second tax apron was for. It was to create this space where teams now have to think more about acquiring players and how they acquire their players and value development and draft picks more. We saw a time period where teams just threw it. Now, I mean, we did still see, for example, the Orlando Magic throw 4 first-round picks at Desmond Bane. So there's still going to be teams that are willing to give that up if they feel like they're getting the right piece. But fit and depth seem to be being prioritized more, and that's the exact way that Adam Silver wanted it. With expansion coming soon, right? Adam Silver said expansion is going to be decided in 2026. So with that potentially coming soon, I think that's something that you're going to see more and more around the NBA as it goes on as well. Depth and fit. But let me know what you guys think on that. Is that the right way to go for NBA teams, or do teams still need to put it all in and get that superstar? If you made it this far, I appreciate you guys. I need to hear from you. Make sure you guys sound off down below. Does a Sabonis to Toronto deal make sense? Are the Celtics a move away from truly being contenders in the Eastern Conference? And where should Klay Thompson end his career? Drop your thoughts down below. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel as well. You can follow us at NBA Central Pod. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related. I'll catch you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.